Go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Elcha? Here. Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Berry?
Here, item D, board meeting minutes not previously approved. D1 and 2, entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the meeting minutes, the number 1 and 2.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Smith. Members of the board, any discussion regarding the minutes? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
yes,
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes, item E, information only items. Number 1, summary of current events. Superintendent Samanu.
Just want to report that we ended successfully our summer school program. We did have a lower turnout this summer than other years, but our high school summer program was extremely successful, and we were able to graduate some students that were lacking a few credits through our summer graduate access to the credits. And a lot of kids were able to access at least half a credit. So the revamping of our summer school at the high school was quite successful. And I also want to report that I just came back from attending the Skills USA National Competition with 12 high school students and 3 teachers from the high school. And I was exhausted after a week of competitions, and have a better understanding of how our students compete in Skills USA and the various different skill and trades that we have. We had about like 16,000 people attend this National Skills USA in Atlanta, and so I'm happy to report that one of our teams, Nicole Michel, Sarib Rodriguez, and Christopher Duarte placed 3rd in Outstanding Chapter. So they got to go on stage and get their silver medal. And so we had Models of Excellence as well. And the kids did place relatively well in other competitions, so want to report that.
Okay, what about, go ahead, move right along with the
Yes.
GEM award.
So our June GEM award, not June, September, see, I am exhausted, has been nominated on several times during the course of our year that I started the GEM program. And so our designee for this month is Ms. Sonia Barcelo. And she is a dedicated employee. She's of great importance not only to the business office and Mr. Soto, of course, but to the whole district as a whole. She oversees the district budget from daily operations, M&O, through the grants. She works tirelessly on state reports to ensure all information is accurate. She is a team player, works with everyone, with the staff in the county and state, and she is an exceptional worker and loves her job. I believe she is deserving of this award, and this is a person that has nominated you several times. And so I selected an orange gem because it represents optimism, happiness, and enthusiasm. So thank you, Ms. Barcelo, for everything you've done and the many years you've been here at the district. So it says Douglas Unified School District Superintendent's Gem Award, representing Sonia Barcelo for being an extraordinary employee and good.
You know, just to follow up on that a little bit, I think it also merits saying that we have an outstanding business department. Notwithstanding somebody sitting up here, but we have a wonderful business department. You know, of course, he's the guy, right? But the board, you know, as I've said so many times, we're extremely grateful and thankful for having that department, because a lot of times people don't even realize that a school district has one until they get in trouble. And anybody that knows of current events, we've got 2 county offices and other parts of the state that are in trouble because of their bookkeeping. We have school districts in trouble because of their bookkeeping. And I can say that just with minor recommendations that we've had over the years in your department with the audit, that we're extremely fortunate to have you and all the people that work with you in that department. Sonia, so you're more than worthy of that award, okay? Thank you. Governing board member reports, Mr. Smith.
Nothing.
Mr. Lindeman.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Ramos.
Yes, I just wanted to report, I attended the conference in Flagstaff in June, leadership conference. And I was impressed by so many things that come out, new things, but the main thing that I wanted to bring back, the importance of a governing board knowing the needs of the students and of the district. And most of all, working together, 5 heads, to do what's best. And I'm proud to say that under these boards that I've been with this past term, we've had a pretty good board that been able to take care of all the major problems and all, especially to be able to produce a lot of good students graduating with intelligent students that I'm really proud to be part of it.
Thank you. Any other board member, anything you want to add, or members of the administration, any reaction to that? What could you say, right? Reports
Nothing but good things.
under 2A, year-to-date budget balance and travel report, Mr. Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. First of all, thank you very much for agreeing to the not normal time that we have our meetings, but again, because of the budget and, that we have to upload the proposed budget and everything, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit. Right now is the month of June report in terms of balances, along with auxiliary and student activities. Again, keep in mind that this is the last month of the fiscal year, but there's still some encumbrances, and we have until September 30th to finish up and close up officially the books. Those are the balances. Any questions in particular that you may have?
Before we get into any questions, do you have anything else you want to add to that report?
To this report, no, not specific to this report.
Okay, and
no.
then be a little bit more specific, because I think it's important for the public to know, to say, they post that they're gonna have regular meetings at 5 o'clock. This is a regular board meeting, and then all of a sudden we meet at 2. So I think you need to get a little bit more than just that we have to upload.
The
Talk
budget.
about the significance of time, if you would.
There's, by statute, we have to propose the budget, and before we adopt the budget, there's gotta be 10 days in between, for people or for the community. If they do have some kind of input, they can come back and do that. So, again, because of the dates in particular now, the 10 days will land on Friday, the 12th. And the deadline for us to submit the budgets to the state is July 15th, which is a Monday. And again, we normally don't want to risk it and actually have that board meeting on that specific date in case that we have some issues uploading. So that's the main thing, that we
Okay.
have this time a little earlier than before.
Thank you for that. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions regarding the budget?
No.
Mr. Lindeman?
No.
Mr. Ramos?
No,
Let's talk about, Sonia?
Yeah,
Did you
let's
want to
talk about
defer to
Sonia.
her? You
No,
want
no,
to
no.
defer to Sonia? Well, she's here, you should feel comfortable, because she's here, has got all the answers.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the one-time payment for the employees.
Right.
Briefly tell us about the monies. Are they available? When's that gonna be made? Not necessarily the amounts yet, right? You haven't determined that yet, right?
We don't have specific amounts at this
Okay.
point. Yes, we're trying to close out this one time is gonna come from ESSER monies, the federal monies that we have up to September 30th to spend. There's still a few purchases and things that need to be finalized for us to have a final amount to be distributed. We are looking at potentially probably having the same amount that we have done in the past, but again, there's no final decision on that. And the date, we wanna do that, this month of August if possible. Again, we have up to September 30th to spend all those monies. And, the sooner we do it, the better. That way, give us time to reconcile and make those calculations. But yeah, it's still in the works, and it's definitely gonna happen in August, but.
Okay, that's a
we don't know.
one-time payment, and it goes
Correct.
to certified and
And classified.
classified, everybody.
Yes.
The other thing I wanna ask you about is regarding the budget balances, on the school facilities board and the enterprise fund that we have for the building. I know that you've informed the board that there is a balance, not necessarily determined yet or what's gonna happen to it. But, the board has given formal approval to move forward with the bond.
Correct.
Are you still working on that?
Yes, sir. We've been in contact with that company that specializes in bonds. In terms of balances, as you mentioned, we'll have that sale of ELC building, A Avenue School, that is gonna go into one of those enterprise funds, the 500s, which I'm hoping that it's not gonna be restricted by any circumstances, and then we can potentially use those monies for whatever we, or the board needs. So, yes, we're still in that process. We have decided that it's not gonna happen in this November because it's very soon in terms to gather all that information, and as the board has inquired before, is about, okay, we know we have a bond in place, and how many more years we have, what's the balance, and what's the impact on that secondary property tax that is gonna, again, there's a lot of moving parts at this point, but the communication is there, and it's something that the administration is looking into potentially for bringing to the voters next year in November.
And that's for a new gymnasium at the high school, right?
Correct.
I wanna be clear that
Correct.
that's what we're
Yes.
talking about. That's what the board formalized for the administration to move forward on, right?
Correct.
Okay, members of the board, any follow-up questions, anything else prompted by that?
Not right now, no.
All right, reports regarding human resources, staffing update, and student enrollment, Mrs. Cox.
Good afternoon. Our total enrollment at this time is 3,735. We have had a total of 301 new enrollments from January to June. 27 of those are preschool, and we've had a total withdrawal at this time of 35 students. So that's looking better than it was last year. But once the school year starts, we may see additional withdrawals. In terms of HR, we are again partnering with the U of A South program. It's the Pathways program. And so, we are placing those student teachers in our elementary schools. They will do their student teaching this coming school year. So all of our elementaries will have the pathway teachers, except for Ferris. They're the only ones that won't have pathway teachers in their schools. We have no vacancies in elementary at this time. Middle schools are looking good. We have one vacancy at Rayburn. Thank you. At Rayburn, and that is a technology position. And Mrs. Lamadrid may have a potential candidate that she'll be interviewing. So middle schools are looking good at this time as well. At the high school, we have 2 teaching positions that are currently open, a science position and an ELA position. And so she is looking for potential candidates for those positions. And then, of course, the athletic trainer is a vacancy that we're also looking for and have had no applicants at this time.
Okay, members of the board, any questions, any follow-up questions on that regarding, Ms. Salchow? Is she there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Denise, pardon me, Mrs. Cox. About how many of our teachers are not what we would call certified? I know that the certification is kind of fluid these days at the State Department, but about approximately, or a percentage even, that are not
That are not
certified.
appropriately certified at this point. I think it would be about 10%, if that high.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's good.
Yes, we're doing really well this year.
Very good.
Anything she said regarding enrollment have any concerns for you with the budget?
With the budget, no, and I know we're gonna talk about the budget at this, in the first item, but, last year, we ended up, when our final revision, we ended up with a weighted amount of 3,000. Anyways, it's like 3 or 4 more, we gained 4 more kids on a weighted for the, building the new budget. So again, we're hoping that that trend continues, in terms that we're not losing those kids, early like we did last year. But there's no concerns, actually, it's just a little better than last year.
Anything you want to follow up with on human resources or the budget?
No, at this time, I just want to say that the question that Mrs. Selchow asked about who's not appropriately certified, it may be a teacher that has an emergency teaching certificate or our pathways that are student teaching. So these are teachers that are on track to get certified within a very short of time. So it's not like we have a lot of long-term subs that are not really looking towards being a future, teacher. So we are in a good position here in Douglas right now
Okay.
at DUSD.
Okay, because of those added comments, members of the board, any questions or comments regarding any of that? Anybody want to address the board?
Yes, sir.
Item 2A, approval of the following consent agenda items. Payroll and expense vouchers reports as listed A through C. Mr. Lindman.
I move to approve the payroll and expense vouchers A through C.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion? Anything you want to add regarding that, Mr. Soto? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Selcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item A, discussion action on the approval of the proposed district annual expenditure budget for fiscal year 2024-25. Mr. Soto.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, board members. Again, this is the proposed budget for school year 2025. Like we were just talking a little bit ago with enrollment, and again, enrollment is what drives the budget. Enrollment equals funding. As you know, the state approved the 2%, and that's all we got, 2% increase on the base level, which this past year was $4,914.17 per student. Now went up to $5,013 flat per student. Again, we build the budget on 3,477.87 weighted count. Again, not trying to confuse you, but again, it's weighted. It doesn't mean physical students. It's preschool doesn't count, and all of the different levels have different weights. There's still a couple of issues, well, not issues, it's actually good things for school districts. The state told us to go ahead and do the proposals and the adoption of the budgets. There's still a couple items that we're still waiting on the final amounts that districts are gonna get as a one-time. It's not a lot, but again, whatever they can give us extra, it's a plus. There's the free and reduced amount and the district additional assistance. There's a potentially additional amount coming. Again, we're not expecting, I think there was only allocated 30 million for the whole state. If you divide that by 200 districts, then it's not a lot of money that we're gonna get extra, but there's still something that we're gonna bring back on the first revision once that happens. Like we talked before, last year when the board approved the 3% increase for employees for certified and the increase for classified, we had to put a transfer from the capital budget, which is district additional assistant of 1.5 million. And like I said earlier, we haven't closed officially the books, and we don't know what the carryover will be. If we have more carryover, then that transfer from capital will decrease, and we'll reflect that on the revision once that happens. Another variant at this point is the tax rate, and again, the county supervisors approved that in August 15th. We have to wait until the adoption of the budget so we can submit those numbers to the county and the proposal for the tax rate. I can tell you that right now it looks really good. We might decrease the property tax rate for this coming year, but again, once we do the adoption, then, and the approval from the county, then we'll know for sure what the tax rate will be. And I think that covers all of the main things. I don't know if you have a specific questions.
More recent information and questions regarding that. What's the secondary tax rate? Do you know that off the top of your head?
We're looking at it right now. The secondary was 0.8. .08 something. Yeah, the secondary property tax is not
Now, why is that significant? Because of what we're talking
for
about?
the bonds.
About the bond. All right, so I just want to keep that,
0.87.
uppermost in everybody's
0.87?
mind. Because that secondary tax rate would be affected, of course, depending on what action the board takes regarding the bond in the future. The other thing is the title programs. Do you have any information on them as far as their monies and what's forthcoming and what it looks like with them?
Well, after talking to Ms. Herrera over there, I mean, I think quite a few of them have been approved. There's some of them that show cuts, like SEI, and yeah, you can come in, yeah.
That's part of the budget, members of the board. That's the reason we need to get some update on that as well.
Good afternoon, Board President, Board members, Mrs. Samaniego, Mr. Soto, Mrs. Cox. Right now, our largest grant, which is our ESA, which is Title I, Title II, Title IV, and Rural and Low Income has not been director approved by ADE. We're just waiting for that to happen at this point. It has received substantial approval, which means we can start spending money out of it. Title III has been director approved. Our two 21st century grants have been director approved. The CTE state and CTE federal grants have also been director approved. Some of them did see a decrease, and we are just still waiting for funds to come in either from the feds to the state and then to us.
So the amounts that you're looking at now, correlation to the budget with everything we do, especially salaries, you're gonna be able to sustain that in those budget because of the amounts. I mean, there's no problem regarding that.
The one grant that did see a reduction is our Title I grant. Once Sonia completes the completion report and we know how much carryover comes in, then I can give you a definitive answer on that. And then typically in between January and March, we receive our final allocation, and that I won't know until at that time.
Okay, members of the board, do you have any questions regarding his update and what Ms. Herrera just reported on? Any questions, Mr. Lindman?
I do. Are we gonna face the brouhaha with the aggregate expenditure limit
No.
again this year?
That has been approved already.
Oh, already?
Yes,
Oh,
for
good.
next, yes.
My other question was, have they changed the reimbursement for mileage at all?
I think that happened last year. There was an update on.
This year.
on-
They
Earlier
did it
this year.
in the
Yeah,
last
earlier this-
legislative,
yes.
this legislative session, I think, right?
Correct.
They did something with the mileage. They
Okay.
They updated the.
upgraded it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I read an article about that, so I was asking. Thank you.
Okay, and then if we can just jump back, because she's up there and it's important, talking about personnel in the grant writer. How are we doing there?
Oh, on the
Miss
title
it-
grants?
On the position, yeah, the position
Well,
of.
we're talking about the position, the
Yeah,
vacant
we have
position.
we have a candidate that has been interviewed by Mrs. Herrera and her team, and we will be calling him back for a second interview with Mr. Soto and Mrs. Barcelo and myself and Mrs. Herrera. So we're hopeful that we may find somebody that can go into that position at this point.
I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Did you get confused? Then you can see what happens to me, right? Who was it, Mr. Smith or Mr. Ramos? Mr. Ramos?
Mr. Ramos.
Okay, you got your confidence back. Any further discussion? Members of the board, administration, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item 3B, discussion action on the approval of certified hires. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, we have one teacher being recommended for RBMS, and you see the rest are emergency subs and substitute teachers for the next school year, for this upcoming year.
Get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve the certified hires.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Any further discussion from the administration? Anything you want to add? Members of the board, any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item C, discussion action on the approval of classified hires. Ms. Samaniego.
Yes, as presented, you have a few positions here, bus drivers and some campus security, data clerk, some key positions in the district, and so as presented.
Mr. Lindemann.
Move to approve the classified hires.
Second.
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes. Did you want to point out
Yes,
anything?
and so before we go on, if we have, I know we have some classified hires here, I'm not sure if we have any of our certified hires, but if you can come up to the podium, introduce yourself, your name, and what position you're gonna be at, so we can welcome you, please, one at a time.
Hello, board. My name is Frank Salcedo for campus security. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. Really excited.
Thank you for being
Welcome.
here. Welcome.
Hello, board members, everybody. My name is Stefan Barco. We campus security at the high school. Thank you.
Mr. Barco, he comes from a long line of school, Douglas Unified School District employees. His dad was with the district for years, and his Aunt Greg taught at Sarah Marley for years. So it's
Yes.
good to have you continue in that positive tradition, Mr. Barco.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Frank Vasquez Jr. Probably know my dad.
Yes, we were wondering if it was your dad.
Like I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I just wish to prove myself to you guys. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, the other day when we were going over the agenda, and it kind of, it was kind of a little bit comical, is I saw Frank Arvizo on there, and I thought,
Frank
that
Vasquez.
can't, I'm sorry.
Vasquez.
Yeah, I said, that can't be I taught him in school years ago, and he was actually on the school board. And she said, yes, it is. She was joking with me, and I said, but it's good to see you here.
Thank you.
And you're welcome, all three of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Frank Vasquez.
And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you're welcome to join us.
We have a motion on the floor, and it's passed. And so we move on to D,
D.
discussion action on the approval of classified transfer, Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, Maria Velasco, who's the current DHS secretary, moving to the DHS registrar position.
And there goes all Mr. Soto's support.
Yeah. What am I gonna do now?
What do you, I know, I hope you
Oh,
don't.
Sonia's here, okay, good.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the classified transfer.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos.
Ramos.
Mr. Smith? Okay,
Ramos.
Mr. Smith.
Okay.
Explain a little bit about that transfer. Maria Velasco's been a secretary at the high school for years, right?
For years and through many principals,
Principals.
yes. And so I think she's very deserving of that, and knowing the high school role and the students and the parents and that front office, she's gonna move into that registrar position, and well deserving of that.
Did you mention that was the position? that,
Anna Hill.
Anna Hill had for so long.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion on that? Ms. Cox, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item E, discussion action on the approval of classified resignation, Ms. Soniego.
As presented.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the classified resignation.
Is there a second? Second. That was Ramos. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes. Item F, discussion action on the approval of increase in hours, Ms. Samaniego.
This is as presented due to the needs of an ESS services for an instructional, a student.
Motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Elcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes. Item G, discussion action on the approval of certified extended school year teachers for summer IEP services, Ms. Samaniego.
Yes, and so these are two teachers that had to work during summer school to provide the school year extended services for our ESS kids. This is a ratification.
Let's get a motion before we.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Where are they being paid out of?
MIPS. MIPS.
MIPS?
Uh-huh.
And they're in ESS?
Yes, they're ESS teachers, but this is for summer school extended year services. So they had to work and provide those ESS services throughout the summer. I'm not sure if they would, submit timesheets, so they may have done, 5 hours or 2 hours and things like that.
Okay, great, all right.
Yeah,
Have
it's
a
not-
motion on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Elcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, item H, discuss an action on the approval of donations received for Douglas Unified School District number 27, Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, we have a donation of $704.87 from the Arizona State Prison Complex to DUSD number 27 students. Donation of 100 used children books from Ms. Judy L. Herbert to new teachers, estimated value of 100, and a donation of $5,563.48 from the Donor Choose Fund to the DHS Newcast Film Classroom, Ms. Yetzabel Rojas.
Mr. Lindemann,
I move to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. The donation from, we're always very, very grateful for that, but when it comes, it says it comes from the Healy unit. Does that come from the
Inmates.
inmates?
Mhm.
And that's actually, you know about this, is that money that they make? They can't raise any, I mean, I don't want to get too technical, but it just comes directly from the inmates?
They have food sales, and from the food sales, the money is then put into an account, and that's what they donate.
Okay, we're grateful for that, and of course, you always send a letter of thank you from your
Yes.
office, and, roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Elcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, item I, discussion action on the approval of appointment of district hearing officers for student discipline for school year 2024-25, Ms. Amaniego.
This is as routine. Every year, we have to appoint our hearing officers in case we need any long-term hearings. And so you have a list of 4 of us, and then including the trust hearing officers provided by the state.
Mr. Lindemann,
I move to approve.
second.
Second.
Mr. Ramos.
I just had a quick question on this. I don't see the list on my background information, but it's a recurring list.
Yes, it's a recurring list that the trust provides for us, and it has anybody in the state that has gone through the appropriate hearing officer training, that in the event none of us can do it, we call the trust, and they will provide one from that list.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Elcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, item J, discussion action on the approval of qualified evaluators for fiscal year 2024-25, Ms. Samaniego.
Again, this is as presented every year. We provide you the list of all of us who will be evaluating our staff.
Mr. Lindemann,
I move to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith.
And again, I don't have a list on my background information.
It's
The
right there.
list, this,
It's part of your
If you-
background information.
Sure.
Do you see it?
I think it's important to take time to show him so that he knows it is there. He can look
I don't have a J.
You know, while she's doing that, we've discussed many
I'll
times
go ahead
about
and
background
tell.
information. And you always put what's
Thank you.
absolutely necessary, especially new hires or something like that. But for instance, the 3 new security officers today, you had just the interview committees and who was recommended. You didn't have the background information of what their experience was, what their, like a resume or anything like that. Don't want to be necio, right? But just that the board, and I think it's obvious, want to see those kinds of things, is, hiring coaches, anything that's in an area especially especially, right? All right, so it's not a problem, but did you get that for him?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Were you able to get that? All right. All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes, item K, discussion action on the approval of authorized signatures for district banking accounts at Wells Fargo Bank for fiscal year 2024-25. Mr. Soto?
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Again, it's a yearly routine, and it's the same signers in the account. Mrs. Samaniego, Mrs. Cox, myself, and Sonia as a backup one, once if we're not available.
Tell, I think it's, tell the board what the signatures on what, for what?
Oh, so whenever we issue checks of any of the different accounts we have, like food service and the student activities and the auxiliary accounts, there's always gotta be 2 signatures on that check. So that's why you see at least, 3 or 4 people in there, because it's a requirement to have 2 signatures on those checks.
Yeah, and most of the time it's Mr. Soto and myself,
Right.
but if one of us is not available, then we have the other 2.
But it's generally a rarity that you personally even write a check, right?
Oh, no.
We don't
no,
write
Right,
checks.
that's
No,
what
we
I'm
don't
saying.
have a checkbook.
Right,
No,
there's-
no.
there's
Or a
no
credit
checkbook.
card that
We have
carry.
credit cards, but we don't
Yeah.
carry them.
Right, I just want to make that, I just want to make that
That is
clear.
all run through our
you do is
business
writing checks.
office.
Yeah,
Pardon?
yeah.
That's
Sonia
all
is
run
in
through
charge of-
business office and, yes, and our checks just.
No,
get-
well, just so that there's no ambiguity, somebody think, oh, that out there writing checks, it happens to be with the vouchers and all of those things. All right, members of the board, any further discussion or questions? Roll call.
I need a motion.
Oh, we need a motion, I'm sorry.
I move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Smith. Now, is there any discussion, members of the board? Any further information you want to give? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes, item M, discussion
L.
action on the approval of the.
L. We're
I'm
on
sorry, L. Discussion action on the approval of the appointment of Cesar Soto, Chief Financial and Operations Officer as Student Activities Auxiliary Treasurer for the district. Mr. Soto, that's a yearly thing
Yearly
that
thing.
by
Correct.
statute the board has to do. Is that right, Ms. Samaniego?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to do that.
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion on that? Anything you want to explain about what that entails for the board? I think the board's pretty well aware of that. but-
Right, it's just that I'm the responsible of those accounts. As you know, the student activities is money raised by the students, and we have those accounts here, and we issue those checks, and same with the auxiliary. So it's just naming me as responsible for those specific accounts.
Okay.
Can you quickly run through for me the PTSO organizations? If they raise money at a fundraiser, do they put it into?
No,
an
no, no,
account?
that's a
That's
separate,
different.
we require the bank statements, so not to audit, not to do anything, it's just to have them, it's a requirement by the audits, but the PTSOs and the booster clubs have their own accounts.
Okay.
And if they decide to donate then to the district, then it comes to our accounts, but those are separate.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? We need a motion.
We got a motion.
Oh, you got a motion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes, item M, discussion action on the approval of fiscal year 2025 Douglas Unified School District community use of school facilities, and that would be policy exhibit forms KF-EB and KF-EC. Let's get a motion on the floor.
I move
So,
to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Again, Mr. Soto, you do that one.
Right, correct. Thank you, Mr. President. It's the same one we approved last year. And if you remember, we did some adjustments last year in terms of the cost. This is whenever an organization wants to use our facilities, gym, classrooms, you name it, then it has to go through me for approval. And if deemed necessary, we have some fees in there that we charge, because as a policy, even when sometimes we don't charge, but at least we have to charge for the cost of the district, which might be utilities or might be personnel, things like that. But there's no changes per se for this coming year, and that's what I'm
So
presenting.
no change in fees?
In fees,
The fees
correct.
are staying the same?
Correct, the amounts are the same.
Go ahead, you want to add?
No, I just wanted to clarify that.
Members of the board, Mr. Ramos.
I just wanted to ask on the class 2 and class 3, what determines what class it's going
There's,
to be?
on the same policy, if you notice, Mr. Ramos, let me find, on page 5, there's the definition of class 1 is the no charge, because they follow the same mission than the district, which is mainly school clubs, PTA, athletic leagues. The class 2 is for civic organizations, community colleges, churches, recitals. And the class 3 is for profit organizations. So those different fees for those different kinds of organizations.
Okay.
Is there, anybody else part of the board? Since you brought that up about outside organizations and sometimes you waive the charge, right?
Correct.
You never waive the coverage, right? The insurance,
No, the insurance, they always have to provide me with insurance.
unless the district gets involved, co-sponsors.
Correct, co-sponsors.
And I think it would be appropriate, just for the sake of discussion, how do you handle a yearly summer baseball game that
Mhm.
takes place at the Copper King Stadium, which belongs to the
To
city?
the city.
But we're the lessees.
Mhm.
How do you handle that? Is there a charge for that?
There's a charge for the use, yeah, and they have to provide the insurance.
You do charge them for the use?
Yes, I want to say yes. I don't have that on top of my head, but I know we have an agreement with the city in terms of that, but, we don't, since they take care of everything in terms of, the cleaning and all that happens. Mhm. But I don't have the most
Okay, I don't
recent one,
want
but-
to put you on the spot, but, the thing that's interesting is, we've talked to the city about, ownership of the football field, the baseball field, we've talked about land swaps.
Right.
And one of the major concerns of the city was that they have a professional baseball, it's not a tournament, but they do have a series of games
Exhibition
with
game.
some pro baseball teams come in here. And one of the things that we were told was that they were concerned about what would happen there if the, this is gonna get too involved, so I'm not gonna go there, but there's some things that happen there that, I don't know if it happens during the summer at this other baseball game, but it's kinda compromising that suddenly that property, because the city approves it, and this isn't being derogatory, but you're not even sure as to what the mechanics were, or what they are of who approves that or not. But one of the questions came up was, the alcohol on the property. And that was the big issue with the baseball game. And that is a very, very serious and important question.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, the school attorney was trying to find a way to work around that, but we have to be very careful because state statutes say there is no drinking at all, period,
Mhm.
on school property, but it is our property. So
It's
Their property.
It's their property, yeah.
So it does get, it gets very complicated. We have a motion on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Selchow?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item N, discussion action on the approval of association membership dues for classified staff. You gonna do that, Ms. Samaniego?
Yes, we have the following staff that are classified, and we're recommending to the board to approve these association fees because it is in the best interest of the district for us to pay the membership fee as opposed to attending one training and it costing $300, and another training, another $300. And so this will allow us to pay their membership and be part of the different organizations. So you have Arizona Association of School Business Officials, so ASBO, and the ASPA, which is the Personnel HR Department.
Let's get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. I notice on, and just for clarification, Mr. Soto, on the vouchers that, when you pay for the business department, is that a group payment or do you pay individually for each one of them?
It's individually,
It's a group,
individually,
individually?
correct.
Okay.
They don't I don't believe ASBO has a,
No, a
like a
group.
group fee that would allow, districts to enroll 10 people, 15 people. Yeah, they don't do that.
I thought that, well, anyway, we will get it. All right, we have a motion. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Selchow?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item O, discussion action on the approval of professional development for Clausen certified and classified staff. Ms. Samaniego.
We've done this before. This is being paid out of results-based funding, so this is additional funding that some of our schools receive. And so Mrs. Moen has submitted the names of her staff that will be participating in various trainings throughout the year of professional development that will specifically be tied to this funding. And we have to have it board approved, and our payroll department will have this on file for any training that happens that will be linked to this funding source.
Entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Members of the board, any discussion? Mr. Lindemann.
I'm just trying to think, is this for specific certified staff or in general?
In this one, I believe, it's all the
It's
staff,
all of them.
classified and certified,
Okay.
that go to Clausen. And if you read the background information, it's all driven towards curriculum and instruction
But, so it includes everybody
at Clausen.
at Clausen?
At Clausen,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm.
Any further discussion from the administration?
No.
Members of the board?
I had one more.
I have a
go
question.
ahead.
Mr. Smith, did you have a question?
No, Mr. Lindemann, I believe, had a
Oh,
question.
I'm
And I
sorry,
believe
Ms.
Ms.
Selchow.
Selchow
Mr.
did.
Lindemann and
And
Ms.
Mrs.
Selchow.
Jones.
Ms.
Okay, go ahead,
Selchow.
Mitch.
Well, Ms. Selchow, I just wanted to ask, would this have value for the district? These techniques?
No, yes, definitely, because this is all going towards, it says dissecting reading and math standards and things that are happening in the classroom at Clausen. So definitely, it's a benefit to the district.
Well, I wonder if we shouldn't look into that at some point,
And look into the.
to expand the professional development of this type
Oh.
of, to all the
Yeah,
teachers.
and what this is, Mr. Lindemann, is that the state provides this additional funding, and I believe Stevenson has had it, Joe Carlson, Clausen, I believe, and Ferris. And so they each have done, different things with that funding in terms of you can use it for salaries, you can use it for professional development. So we've done this before with Stevenson staff, when Mr. Dudon was there. Mrs. Moen has done it consistently, I think now for 2 or 3 years. And Mrs. Leon when she was at Joe Carlson. So it's additional funding, it's not M&O, it's not title money, this is additional funding that those schools receive, so they utilize it in this way to do additional professional development and be able to pay them.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mrs. Selchow.
Ms. Selchow.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have.
Go ahead, Ms. Selchow.
Okay, in a way, I have a question that kind of goes along with Mr. Lindemann's. Will we see this type of training being offered for other schools. I know that last year, Ms. Moen's school received this training, and I believe it pays off very well. Her scores show that. And the reports that we hear coming from that school are very good. And so I wanted to know about our other schools, and if they would be getting the same type of training, and if not, how is the money allotted?
In terms of will schools receive other, there's always professional development opportunities, right? And so because this specific one is being funded through that, and that's how Mrs. Moen is utilizing those funds, a lot of the training that, you know, that is happening at this school, for example, which is all unwrapping the standards in reading and math, can also be done in a very similar way through our curriculum department, our PD, and we are working on that to be able to really focus on pacing calendars, developing, you know, better lessons, standards-based through the curriculum department. And so that is one of our goals this year, to provide more of that grade level based training and cross-curriculum training, because the teachers are asking for it. So yes, we will definitely mirror some of this professional development via other avenues within the district, and it may happen, for example, during a Wednesday early release, where teachers have to stay here and not necessarily end up getting paid extra. So the reason why we're bringing this to the board is that this is extra pay. Anything above and beyond their normal contracted time that will be provided as professional development will allow Mrs. Corey to pay them. If that answers your question.
One more question. Is it possible that when they do attend the training, and we do have some teachers that have mastered these skills and excel in these type of instruction, if they can go to other schools, like on early releases, and do training at other schools?
Yes, that is definitely possible.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it, Ms. Halchel?
Yes, those are all my questions.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Alcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes, item P, discussion action pursuant to policy BGF to temporarily suspend policy BGB, requiring 2 readings of the proposed policies prior to approval of the adoption, in order to approve the following policy advisories immediately upon the first reading. Ms. Samaniego.
So as presented, I don't know if you had time to really read thoroughly, but this deals with adding some language about, you know, using generative artificial intelligence, or AI, which is the new term, in programs and platforms in classrooms. And so what this does is just adding some language and allowing districts to consider the impact of these of AI in classrooms. And I know we've briefly talked about it at other board meetings, and so we know it's being utilized. We do have some features within the district, or apps, that allow our teachers to, let's say, scan a document or scan an assignment that will detect some type of, I don't want to say cheating, or language that is not really a student's. And so we have some of that embedded already in the district. Our staff that went to the Leading Change Conference came back very excited about some of these programs using AI that are really geared for teachers, to allow them to use AI to develop some great lessons that are standard-based. And so at our retreat, our principals retreat, we had some of the principals present on what they learned at the conference, and a lot of them were talking about this. So that's one of the PDs that we're going to embed throughout the year for our teachers, that a lot of teachers are having access to AI, and not only students nowadays. So this is coming straight from the Arizona School Boards Association. And
Let's
AI.
get a motion on the floor for discussion.
I move to approve.
Mr. Lindemann,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Members of the board, any discussion?
I want to ask,
Go ahead.
with that, you mentioned that a teacher could scan a report or whatever, and that would raise flags just by the language of being.
Yes.
And so if a student advances and starts using a higher level of language, and it says that it's what he's using is not right, how are you gonna determine whether he's progressing or?
Well, I mean, it becomes quite difficult to manage, to tell you the truth. If you've ever been a teacher and you're grading an assignment and you get to know the skills of your students very early on. And so in terms of, is it black or white, there's some gray areas that you may have a student that comes and says, well, it was my work. And it's my work and I submitted it, and so it's gonna become, it's the challenge, and we've talked about it, Mr. Smith, I think you brought it up, and I mean, colleges are having to deal with the same issue. And so these softwares or these apps that allow some wiggle room for teachers to determine if an assignment is authentically theirs, and it doesn't mean AI, unfortunately, I mean, it is the future. It's here, and it's gonna get even more utilized by our students, by anybody. And so what it does, it doesn't mean that students can't utilize AI to, you know, learn and produce assignments and work. But what it means is that these apps will allow us to detect when a student spent 5 minutes on something and just, you know, ask the question, please write a essay on the civil rights movement. And it'll write it for you in 2 seconds, and you'll have an essay. And so what these apps do, it'll allow a teacher to detect whether really that, it kind of measures it against some technology, it's technology-based, that will allow a teacher to say, this document, there's some major red flags, and this may have been an assignment that was not given much thought, not much. So there's some backing up from these software systems that are in place to detect some of these that can be a discussion point with students. It's not perfect, because the student will say, it's my work.
And
So-
at that point, the teacher,
Yeah, I
what will
mean,
she do?
there's gonna have to be some serious conversations and maybe, some plagiarism. I mean, it's getting complicated by the minute. But it's not impossible to detect, because like I said, early on, teachers get to really identify from a simple assignment, a written assignment that a student submits, compared to now you're turning in an essay, which is utilizing very high level writing skills and language skills that I am doubting. So that's when those apps come into play to detect some type of inconsistencies or authenticity in the work that students are submitting. But there is an AI movement for teachers, for industries that are, you know, not in the education world, that are making things a lot simpler for, you know, for everyone. But there comes that responsibility on behalf of, you know, it says here, it shall be the responsibility of all district employees to be knowledgeable of the board's policies and administrative guidelines. And it is our responsibility also to have some parameters in place for these AI, this AI movement that we have in our world nowadays.
Thank you.
Mr. Lindeman, Mr. Smith?
No, I'm happy to see that we've got this.
A
As
policy.
said, this is something that I had mentioned a while back, that I thought it was entirely needed. I'm glad
Yes.
that we have this.
Because everybody's dealing with it. And
Yeah.
I actually, my plan is for possibly the August board meeting, I want some of our administrators to do a presentation on some of the AI things that they learned, so that you can be amazed by what teachers are able to do with AI. And I'm gonna have that demonstration for you in the August board meeting, because I think you all need to be well aware of some of the, programs out there that are free for us to use. You know, a lot of times, let's say school principals, spend a lot of time in creating a newsletter, you know, the old way, trying to get pictures from different activities, and you can literally go into one of these and say, please type a newsletter with this information, and it'll do it for you in seconds. So I want that demonstration for you at the August board meeting. So,
Any
you're
further-
gonna have a little fun.
Yeah, great. It's good discussion, good questions. Any further discussion, members of the board? These policy advisories are part of our membership with ASBA, and among other things, all of the conferences, but of course, those are, you have to pay for those separately. But I think just every year, I think we just paid the membership dues to ASBA. I think it was, what was, about $14,500?
It depends on the enrollment.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
but I think
but
we paid about
average.
14. So we pay good money for these kinds of things, but we have to have it, especially on the updating of the policies. And then, speaking of that, and then back to the budget on, just for a second, the budget, how much are you paying the trust now?
$540,000 a year. That's what we're gonna pay this year. Again, it depends on, the usage, it depends on the liability insurance, it depends on the square footage of the district, and since we increased the square footage, and the usage of, the prepaid legal and all of those things. So every year it varies, but it was a significant jump from last year to this coming year, which we got $540,000.
Is that right, Sonia? She's shaking her head,
Yes.
yes, so you're
Well-
right. Well, no,
You don't believe him?
she's affirming it. She's,
Yes.
she's affirming it for you.
Yes.
So that makes you look good. She said, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah,
But,
it's-
but we need to know that trust, with those attorneys, every time you pick up the phone or they're on the phone, they're on the clock. And,
Yes.
and we can go over it.
An email, a 5-minute text message,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we are, try to not contact them, you know, unless we have to.
Go ahead, Mr.
I just wanted to bring up a thing on the budget, as long as the chairman brought that up. I just read, the other day, or maybe it was today, that Flowing Wells has increased the, substitute teacher pay to $140 a day. Are we gonna have to look at that at some point?
Okay, it's something for him to just think about. We'll bring that
Yes.
back. If you want to bring that back, we can talk about that.
Okay.
Okay? All right, any further
And-
discussion?
No, and just one more, I don't know if you noticed this, but I think it's important to note that one of the changes, it's removing the words, it says, and any computer accessible source of information, whether from hard drives, and it's removing tapes, computer disc, CDs, floppy disk, and other electronic sources. So that is going away, because we don't utilize, our kids don't even know what a floppy
Know what they
disk
are, yeah.
So I thought that was just important to note.
Yeah, it's all very interesting, very good information.
Mhm.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Alcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes, item 4, Ms. Samaniego, well, first of all, we have a special board meeting, July the 12th,
At
2024 at
2 p.m.
2 p.m. And the reason for that, again,
The 10 days.
is for this.
Adopting the budget.
And then that same day, we're gonna have a public hearing for the budget adoption. And then Ms. Samaniego, will defer to you on the rest of it.
Yes, so, in a blink of an eye, we will be having, students and welcoming them on the July 31st, which is our first day of school. And our next regular board meeting is August the 6th.
Okay, again, members of the board, thank you so much for your being here again. And Ms. Salchow, thanks for being there telephonically.
Thank you.
And the one thing, everything we did was important, but the one thing is that we got, thanks to the administration, a responsible budget that helps us effectively carry out the duties and responsibilities we have of providing an education and, of course, services, all the services to the district. So we thank you for that, Sonia, your office, Caesar, thank you, and overall vigilance by the superintendent, Ms. Samaniego. Entertain a motion to
Move to
adjourn.
approve.
Is there a second?
Adjourn.
That's all right. Second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Stand adjourned.
Well, I didn't hear you